why do most thieves who steal a lot of this money gets caught? It's just a simple question.
Hey, wadau manzi, I know by the end of this one, mta agree na mimi, our guest for this episode, Gichuki, is one of the most diversely informed guests tumewahi kuwa naye kwa show.
First of all, we established that this thing of people hiding on social media with pseudo accounts is like hiding by closing your eyes.
You really need to put a lot of measures for government not to be able to catch you.
Kingia data privacy.
Each app you download, you leave 15 data points. Yes.
15 data points.
Yes.
Kwa wase kienyeji.
Okay.
15 data points.
15 data points, it means.
Mambo ya policy hata sasa usionge.
So I sit in the middle of tech and the policy and regulation, but I also sit in between companies and government.
Gichuki is a co-founder and lead policy advisor at Nexus Tech Policy Advisors, a consultancy firm specializing in technology and policy regulatory compliance across Sub Saharan Africa, and I guarantee you our conversation is worth every second of your time.
This is why. If you have access to financial services, you are able to save, you're able to plan your money well, you're able to get access into business opportunities that you did not have.
That is top shelf buyers.
Is that so?
You are guaranteed access to financial services. Access to the finances is where they draw the line.
I'm your host, Dr. Kingori, and here's another reason to stay subscribed to our channel. Kama hauja subscribe, this right is another good reason to hit subscribe and turn on the notifications bell. Na kama kawaida, quick word kabla show ianze. Umeshasikia story ya Odoo AI powered accounting? No? Wacha nikuplug. Let's start with the basics. Odoo is an all-in-one platform designed to handle all your business needs. From your professional website, CRM, POS, that is point of sale, HR, marketing, project management, you name it, Odoo has it. Sasa leo let's narrow down to the game changer, the Odoo AI powered accounting. Recently tulikuwa na episode kali sana tulificha mkurugenzi Abel Mutua, and if you got a chance to catch it, you know how important proper accounting is to your business.
Sisi mazee business tulikuwa nje na hiyo ndio kiboko mazee ilituchapa vile tulianza Philip Productions. Ukianzisha biz, hakikisha the first person una employee 001, employee 001 accountant. Huyo ndio msee atakutolea headache itamu.
So here's the good news. Odoo is making accounting smoother and smarter. Imagine recording 10 bills per minute rather than one. Odoo AI-powered accounting scans all your uploaded bills and uses artificial intelligence to encode them perfectly. The vendor, the bill date, and even the reference. You can also manually confirm the values from your uploaded bill to help Odoo's AI get smarter. Honestly, maze, show me a better definition of working smart. To get started, just click the link tumekuwekea kwa hii description ya video, and if you need more information, you can book yourself a meeting with an Odoo expert at your preferred time using the same link. And did I mention your first application on Odoo is free, so you can start automating your bills today for free. And as your business grows, you can add more applications at a very affordable rate. Changamka na hiyo link tumekuwekea kwa description ya hii video, uweke biashara yako in order with Odoo. You see what I did there? Order Odoo.
Kenyans are about to find out. Vile watu ni machopi hapa nje. Ni nini hujafanya? Unajua, this conversation is purely about policy. I'm a big fan of policy. Tena, I hear you, I hear vibes, political science. And I love politics, especially from the perspective of some of the things you've mentioned. And as a student of political science, please, acha tu nianze na hii, as we settle in the conversation. I know, disclaimer, it's policy vibes, but nimesikia political science, can't let it go. One of our guests in a recent episode, Lee Njiro, an episode that imekasirisha watu wengine, some people are excited about it, eye-opening, depend perspective, right? And there's one of the things he says is that politics is not about development, it's about how you make people feel. Doesn't matter how many roads you build for people, they don't care. That's why another regime is said to have built roads, wakaambiwa people don't eat roads, right? Another regime has not built a single road, and unasikia A, B, C, D. But then again, there's a debate of whether development guarantees you political office in Kenya. I think I would like to hear a second opinion. Political science inasemaje kwa hiyo?
So, from a perspective of class,
Yes.
political science is very different. It's based on what you're saying, development,
Yes.
policies.
Yes.
These are the problems in society. How do we address them from a governance perspective? Why is governance necessary in countries? How do you relate with other countries? So while from what happens on ground or what happens in our day-to-day life, what we see as politics or what we consider as politics is not what is taught in a political science class. So political science, you're taught what is expected of you from being a public servant. So it involves also learning international relations. You learn aspects of what causes war, how do you address things of war. You also compare different governments. Why does America have the system it has? Why does Kenya have the system it has? How it works, how it doesn't work. We also look at the colonial past of where Kenya has come from, what colonization, how it has informed our political environment, how we develop our policies. So the political science you learn in school is about people, and it also helps you understand why people also behave the way they do. While, however, on this other side, and how governance is a big contributor. So how are people structured in the ecosystem? Why is the structures system necessary?
Yes.
But the politics we see, at the end of the day, human beings are very emotive. So you need to be able to push people based on what is this that's driving their emotions. You need to appeal to people's emotion for them to actually be able to connect and relate with you. Because again, it's something we say in terms of how many people read manifestos. Because very few people
Even
read.
the people who write them don't read them.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, there's
Most.
some who,
Most,
yes,
yes.
most.
Yes.
Because if we were working with what political science is supposed to do, it's supposed to be about manifestos. So, because that's what you learn in school. What proper governance system, how can you become a contributor to the governance system and why it's in place.
Okay.
So those are two different things. Well, what Lee says is what happens, but it's not what we learn in class.
So that's a proper and prime example of the disconnect between what people learn about a relevant subject and its relevance to the ground.
Yes.
But kuna kitu umesema na kuanga rada sana na some of these things. How people behave the way they behave. Please give us an example.
So one of the things you look at is how the structure, from people in a structural perspective, informs people behavior. The other thing you look at just the different governance systems. So for example,
how people behave if you put them in a structure.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So different kind of structures. You can either be from a tribal structure,
structure?
Yes, it can be economical structure, it can be social class structure. So how does that inform how you behave? So if you're looking at governance, you need to be able to know, how do I structure the people I'm going to govern? Like, what are the structures that I need to put in place? That's why we have things like we have cities, we have urban centers, we have rural areas. So you need to be able to understand, for example, if you put people in a tribal structure, what are the challenges are you going to have when you're going to govern them? Are people going to marshal against you if you're not part of their tribe? Because what is connecting, or what is the familiarity aspect?
Are you saying, say for example, there's a structure, who chooses this structure? Because you're making it sound like this is an option. Like you can look at a people and decide, hey, let me classify this as tribe, or let me classify them as middle class. Like, let's go economic, not tribe. Who makes this decision?
Politics informs part of that, not 100%. The politics informs part of that. For example, if you look at where Kenya came from, when we were colonized, we used to live in tribal structures. When the colonizer came, what was the first thing that they tried to do? Divide and rule. So divide people so that you're able to rule them. So you divide, while you used to see, I know that I'm coming from this clan, this is my tribe, so I need to be able to divide, dismantle some of those things to be able to rule. So what you identify as, I need to first break it. You look at yourself as Kenyans, I need to be able to divide that unity to be able to rule. So what is happening currently right now? What is the driving conversation in our current political system? It's Murima. You see, that's a very
I think
tribal.
hiyo pande ingine ilikuwa dynasty hustler.
Yes, and that's now dynasty hustler, that is economical class.
Yes.
So now you make people realize me and Dr. Kengori are the same because we come from the same economic.
Yes.
We have the same economic problems. However, I can look at it and I'm like, me and Dr. Kengori come from the same tribe. You get. So politics contribute to the structural formation. It's a small contributor, but it does contribute. However, also human beings tend to do it based on different interests. So people will stay in a rural area because that's where they were born, that's where they found themselves. But then when they come to the city center, again, you have a choice. But some of it is also informed by politics. Remember how PV, it resulted to people now saying, I need to live where people from my community are. People started moving from, I used to live in Kiambu, I cannot live in Kiambu anymore because I don't feel safe. So do you get how it contributes?
Yes. So the most creative, so that I don't lose you here, the most creative political operators are they that can come with a strategy that forms a structure that they can identify with so that they can manipulate that as their crowd.
Yes, and most do that. So I'll give you two varying example.
Yes.
When Kibaki came into power, what was his unifying or his the one thing that he made Kenyans identify with? It's driving the middle class economy, bringing people to know that I can come to Nairobi and I can still make it, right?
Yes.
Because there was economic empowerment because money was flowing into the system. So it made it easier for people to feel comfortable to come into the urban centers and staying in the rural area, right? Okay, now we go back to Uhuru's regime. What was the driving factor? It was just the fact that the roads, so there was the agriculture, just trying to expand the economy with connecting.
Big Four agenda.
Yes, the Big Four agenda, it's health. It's just also what he's known for is the road, which has interconnected places that were not open or accessible prior to that. That is now from a structural or from an infrastructure perspective, right? The Big Four agenda is also kind of what Quebec was trying to do, that though they may not have met what they were trying to achieve, that was different from Kibaki's time, who was trying to drive up the middle class economy. And so we had a thriving middle class during Kibaki's time, while on this other side, it wasn't. And that's where the conversation of dynasty and hustler came in, because some people felt they were disenfranchised, like they were not part of the conversation. Yes, because now there was development is happening in this side of Kenya, development is not reaching this side of Kenya. So now that's the identifying factor of hustler versus dynasty, because they felt like all the other places where most of our leaders have come from, which unfortunately has been from one tribal area, they've been getting the development, us, we're not getting the development. It's also the identifying factor of these people have been in leadership XYZ time, it's time for the new crop or the new kids in the block to come in place, who they've not gotten their money, let me say quote unquote, through power or through the fact that they come from a so-and-so family which have been in the political system. They've made their money through hard work, which now made it an identifier with a common mwananchi who also knows that they have struggled to get where they are. Because also remember, during Uhuru's regime, times became a bit hard. Money was not as available as it was prior. So things became harder for people. So again, people could identify with the hustler and dynasty because they felt like money was going.
It's more like reading the mood of the country So, so this means that people align to a structure that they feel is serving their interest.
Yes.
While in this case, it could be manipulation by someone whose interest lies in you identifying with that structure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is how people, like, you learn why people behave the way they behave. It could be political, it could be economical, it could be social. So that's how some of the things you look at and you're able to identify and say, okay, this is why people will go into a crowd. Like, you're in a crowd and you'll be like, Kengori as an individual is a straight up person. Take him into the maandamano setting because of influence from you get. So some of those things, money influences you behave differently when you have more money and when you don't have more money. So those are some of the things. And there's a common phrase we say in political science where we say power corrupts and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. Yes.
Wow. So it is a subconscious effort that someone would drop their tribe identity for another structure that will make them identify with someone from a different tribe.
Yes. So it's what, if you look at what happened in Rwanda, the genocide, what was there what brought disunity in the system? It was the tribe. Right now, Rwanda they don't identify from a tribe perspective. They identify as Rwandans. Yes. Because they saw the ills of, again, who influenced the thing of, I am this tribe, you are that tribe. It was politicians.
This we are walking into the territory of subjective reality.
Yes.
But does this mean that subjective reality in the context of belief that we have stopped reasoning as tribe, we are now Rwandans? How permanent is this with that example in context?
I wouldn't want to speak so much of Rwanda because it's also a lot of
any other example. Yes. In terms of this identification of structure.
It helps because remember, it's the thing of you after being in a place where you don't have people you can like recognize or identify with in terms of a tribe perspective. What do you have? It's a humanity, it's either economical, it's either class. So it's a very good example. People who live in the urban center, they do not belong to the same tribe, do they?
No, they don't.
Exactly. But you saw what happened during the post-election violence. Did you?
Yes.
So in the urban center, the fight was not based on tribe. It was based on economic class. People who live in the high areas of Nairobi, they didn't have the same issue someone living in our slums, let me just say, for lack of a better word.
Yes.
In the slum areas, they did not have the same issues. They did not have the same problems. People who are living in the high areas of Nairobi were not fighting each other.
So the masters of puppeteering have mastered this art. And when you say that, Sasa, my mind opens up to high school.
Yes.
I never miss a moment to give a shout out to Ngovio boys. So now in high school, we find that based on different circumstances, people identify differently, right? I don't experience the concept of tribe in high school, but then something comes up in this example, umesema, ati kuna watu wa Nairobi, and they are Nairobi people, na kuna wasee wa Ocha, walikuwa wanaitwa Kamugunda, wasee wa Ushago, and there are elements of discrimination like they can look down upon. These people don't belong, watu wa Nairobi don't belong to the same tribe, different.
Yes.
But they have a form of identity because they would feel they are better than these other people.
Exactly.
And it's based on some of the things they identify with.
Yes.
So the smartest people are the people who know how to identify these structures for their own gain.
Yes. It's why we have one of our most popular politicians who was known for being the person who will come and be in the trenches with everyone when they're throwing stones. But after that, where does he go? He's not going to the same places these people are going to, like everyone else is good. The morning she's going back to. He is going to his very big home where everything is. But these are the people he has to lead. This is what they identify with. If he puts himself in, or like differentiate himself from the people, they won't vote. They won't vote for him. They won't recognize him. That's why you see the theatrics we see during elections. But when you meet some of these leaders, you're like, they're very sober-minded people. But when they're in the campaign trail, they are very different people.
Is this accurate to say that Kenyans are individually clever, but when in a group?
It's just human beings. It's not just Kenyans, it's just generally human beings.
This is basically, we can reduce this to an innate need for identity.
Yes.
Simple as that.
Yes.
So the people who exploit the mass population, they know this psychology of crowds.
Yes. And each crowd is different.
And each crowd is different.
Yes.
Did you go deep into understanding the dynamics of, in terms of, let's say for example, watu wanasemanga, in Kenya the middle class don't vote. Alafu sijui, so now the so-called Linjiru in his books, anaitanga hoi polloi. It's a very strong statement, right?
I know.
But then, kila mtu, we have people who struggle to get from this low class to get to the middle class.
Yes.
There are people who cross from the middle class, rarely though, to like
to
wealthy,
1%,
right? Ngumu. The system is very tricky. Watu wanachezeanga either urudi chini.
But you know, there's also, okay, so even in the lower class, there are two levels of it. There's lower class and there's high lower class, and then even in the middle class, there's lower middle class and higher middle class. These people from an economic standpoint are not at the same level. They earn different, they enjoy different comforts based on their economic power. Exactly. And then there's the middle class. So there's like, in middle class there are like three. So there's a middle class, and there's a high middle class, and there's a lower middle class. So there's three hierarchies of the middle class.
It's guaranteed that if someone gets a chance ya kutoka from the lower class to get into the middle class, their mindset changes.
Yes, there is. I'll just give like a very good example of what we normally see. Why do most thieves who steal a lot of this money gets caught? It's just a simple question, because you have money, you want to feel some type of way. Again, people do not behave the same.
Why do they always get caught?
Yeah, just to maybe quote like what Diamond said, pesa usafi, usafisha. So you want to look and identify with where you're at in life. Yes. Which means you need that money to work for you and to help it make other people in your group or in your class system or in your structure identify with you. Because remember, you have to be accepted. If they do not accept you, it doesn't matter if you identify as it. They don't recognize you.
Yes.
It's like let's say you go put a slum in the middle of Karen. People in Karen will never identify that slum as one of their own.
Let me give you a very pedestrian example, and it is for purposes of like just this debate. In politics, there have been allegations, and I call it pedestrian because it does not have any other backing, because rich is rich, okay? There is talk of our president to identify as hustler, right? And the poor people identify with him was because, yes, he has money, but he does not have the Kenyatta family money.
Yes. So I don't think that's why they identified with him as hustler. It's I think, well, like we have the American dream. For me, I call it the Kenyan dream. The Kenyan dream is that I can come to Nairobi, I can get opportunity, or to any urban center, get opportunity, work hard, be able to make enough money to grow through the economic and social class. Because of my by sweat.
Yes.
So now that's what they identify with, because that's what everyone wants to believe, that you know,
it is
what
possible.
I can work at. And that's why Kenyans are resilient. They don't give up, because their hope is, I can make it, because they've seen others making it.
He represents the possibility.
Yes, the possibility. The hope that I can actually achieve the same thing.
Yes.
It's what people say, but also the downside is Kenyans, we do not question the journey. How did this person get there? We see the destination, but we don't look at the journey.
We just compare the start to the finish.
Yes, exactly.
Hii ya katikati, we don't care.
Thank you.
Okay, your area. Tutarudi hapo kidogo, but for purposes of let me give you another example. I just gave Milka from our team an example as we were engaging on what policy really is, right? And people can go check. In our conversation with Jimmy Wanjigi on this same platform, he explained an idea of how they used to implement ideas.
Okay.
Let's say, for example, Thika Road. They look at Thika Road, alafu sasa it's pre-planned.
Yeah.
The ideas of, okay, so hii barabara, by bringing this road, there are settlements zimedevelop hapa, cost of land goes up, it launches new millionaires, there is the Kamakis business iko hapa, like it's a whole, like this one idea breeds several economies.
Yeah.
And you may assume that by default, at a road stimulates economy. Then you come to context. I see Joe Hamisi writes about the looting during Nyayo era.
Yeah.
And he says that projects were misplaced and they used to build roads heading to nowhere, and farmers wanakuja wanaanika like their maize in the roads, like it's tarmac, but it does not serve any purpose, ni kuwekelea to mahindi and goats to sun their nini, kukausha nyama, mbuzi ikingoja siku ya kuchinjwa. Like nothing, no one passes through that road.
Yeah.
What's the difference between these two things? Zote ni barabara. Is this one misplaced policy, one a well-executed idea, ama one is a beneficiary of location, one is a planless execution? What do you think? What's going on there?
So I'd say one, okay, I don't know if it's a planless, because you see, a plan might involve so many things. The intention is very different.
Yes.
Am I building a road for me to come and shout and say I built a road without addressing the needs? So the whole aspect of policy, it's supposed to address issues in the society. So backing up a bit, when we say policy, it's a very broad term. Remember what I told you, because policy refers to just frameworks and guidelines that are there. So it can be even like an IT policy. So that's policy. So what we're addressing is public policy, because now this is policies that affect the public or are there to, they're actually the blueprint of what government intends to do. So just to quote like the definition of public policy from a Freeman political scientist who says, policy, he's called Thomas Dye. He says policy is it's what government decides to do or not to do. It's considered controversial, but it's in simple term.
Yes.
So that's what public policy is supposed to be. So what it does, a public policy is just a framework that guides what government is going to do. So it says these are the things we want to focus on as government. So again, now going back to your example. So one was not backed on any policy framework. Let me use the word framework. By policy framework, I mean any policy plan or any planning, for lack of a better word. It was not guided by anything. Remember what I've said, public policies are? It guides what government will do. The other one is guided by policy, by public policy, meaning it's coming to address an issue that has been identified. So even before we get into a policy, which is just a document, a policy is just supposed to be able to give structure to government and to be able to say, this is what we're going to do for the next 1 year. This is what we want to do the next 5 years. These are the things we want to be able to put in place. Before it gets there, there's a lot of process that goes into it. So there's analysis that is conducted to be able to identify what are the issues on ground. What are the solutions that can actually be used to address these issues. There's stakeholder engagement. So they go around getting information, they collect data to be able to know what is the impact of this issue. So you just don't come and bring a document, but maybe it affects 100,000. Well, there's a whole other issue that affects 100 million of, like, let's say we live in Kenya, let's give it the number, it affects 40 million people in Kenya. You get which one has more
Yes,
weight
yes.
and
maximum impact.
Yes. And you can see the difference between the two. Thika Road serves a lot of people. This other road was serving no one. But there's money that has been spent. That is the difference. So that is the first thing you do go to, and there's also like a lot of stakeholder engagement that happen. So the first process in a policy in a policy development is you first identify the issue, and then you set an agenda of that. So you have all your issues you've listed, and you have all possible solutions. You call stakeholders to also give you input, because it's not just government that says this is what we're going to do. You need to get input from stakeholders. By stakeholders, I mean it's the public, it's the experts on ground, it's researchers, it's academia, it's civil society, it's development, international development institution, just to be able to advise, because again, you can't just do something in silo. Policy is not developed in silo. Once that is done, this list of issues and solutions is now what is put together, and now with what we call agenda setting. So through agenda setting, there's also a lot of negotiation and discussions and persuasion on what solutions are we putting across. Remember, I think when we had this discussion when we were talking, for people want to be able to influence their solution because they have an interest in it. So in policy, there's always winners and losers, that I say, because at the end of the day, how you're able to influence is informed by a lot of things. So your level of interest, power, level of influence with the key people who are part of this development process, who you are, some of those things. There's also the part where people say political buy-in, but that now comes in a bit later. But it kind of also informs, because again, if we don't have money to hold these discussions, and who allocates that money? Remember, it's a public conversation. So it's government, so it cannot go anywhere. That is one, and that's why you'll see some policies they're developed in 6 months. They're already in place. Others, and now they're ready for implementation. Others a government comes and leaves, and nothing has been done. So those two differences. After now, the agenda has been set. This is presented to the relevant ministry for review and consideration. So once now the agenda setting has been done, and we have our priority areas, now it goes into the drafting of the actual policy document. Again, throughout this whole process, there's a lot of engagement with stakeholders, because this is not a document, and that's why you see a lot of hue and cry when there's a lot of non-public participation on so many issues, and it's like you cannot bring issues to serve a few. It needs to serve the majority, who are Kenyans, and this is enshrined in the Constitution. It's
do they care?
Kenyan
do they
rights.
know?
They do. They've been in leadership for how many years? Yes,
No,
they do.
the ordinary people, because I'm getting the vibe of consultation, negotiations, agenda setting, and everything. It looks like everyone is involved except the people it's meant to benefit.
They are usually involved. Again, so I have been in policy development consultations whereby someone someone who looks very old, but the breadth of insight they're able to give, you're left in awe, and you're like, I wish more people could. So again, there's also, unfortunately in Kenya, there's a lot of you as a citizen, you have to be the one who's seeking these opportunities. There are some civil society groups who come and they actually collect the information from wananchi. Also, the people developing this policy, they actually are supposed to go on ground and collect feedback from Kenyans, or rather common wananchi or citizens, so that they actually bring this back as part of the feedback they've received.
That example felt very particular. You are involved in a policy process, and someone gave a breath of, not to put you on the spot, just so that we are on the same page. What policy was this? We just want to give.
So it was during the development of the Data Privacy Act.
Data Privacy Act. That's a good one.
Which again.
Data Privacy Act.
Yeah.
So what was this meant to solve, for example?
So it's meant to protect citizen and to protect the rights of citizen on how their data is used, and this is personally identifiable data.
And this is not data bundles.
No.
Just to be clear.
It's your personal information. What can identify you as Dr. Kengori? What do you have that if I look at it, I will know it is not. It's not Mary. It's you.
You know, that was a conversation at some point kwa mtandao, how in Kenya the data privacy, as in people don't care about data privacy proper.
Yes.
Yes. So the act was meant, the problem was to protect the data that can identify.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So again, now this is more in the tech space, and we all live in a very tech world.
Yes.
So to give you a very interesting statistic, so for each app you download, you leave 15 data points. Yes.
15 data points. Yes. Kwa wase kienyeji.
Okay.
15 data points.
15 data points, it means you leave 15 different types of information that about can identify you. So it is your phone IMEI, it is your number, it is your name or username, it's your email, it's your location, it's your pages you visit a lot, it's activities you do when you're using that app. Yes.
So now this, I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself.
Yes.
This explains why someone opens a pseudo account. Kama mwingine juzi alikuwa anaitwa I must go. Right? In the name of the president.
Yeah.
And then akiulizwa anasema, no, I think not akiulizwa, his tweets were so radical, and then kidogo he's been produced in court.
Yes.
This is to say that he probably thought he was hiding his data, but kumbe kwa hizi 15 points watakuuma na moja.
Yes.
That's what, to bring it closer.
Yes. So when you download an app, one of the key elements that they have to get to collect is your IMEI. So IMEI is the identification for your phone. Yes. And each phone has a unique IMEI. You know that.
Yes.
Reason being, for them to be able to develop apps that are functioning, they need to know the capacity, like what phones are downloading our apps. What is it an iPhone 16? Is it a Samsung? You get the different types of phone.
Yes.
What kind of a phone is it? And so that, and also what is capability in terms of iOS capability, like all that. So they need the IMEI, and with the IMEI, so for every phone brought into this country, it is actually registered or recorded at the Communications Authority. Because they have to approve. You cannot bring a device in this country, a telecom device in this country, without CA's approval. They have to approve because there are standards that are set. So it has to meet certain standards.
If you go to America, you buy an iPhone there, you fly with it here.
The minute you put in a SIM card, it gets registered just into the network. And then remember, it's not just in Kenya, it's a global thing. So IMEIs are recorded. And this is, for lack of a better word, like public data. So that is like one of the things they have to get. Remember, there was a time I don't know if you can remember, there was a time when phones were being stolen, and one of the things they were saying you can report your IMEI if you have it for Safaricom to be able to block it.
Yes.
Yeah. So IMEIs are very unique, and there's a way this data can actually be accessed. So that is the first thing. When you sign in, when you set up an X account, what's the most basic thing you need to put in?
Your email address.
Yes. You might use any random email address, but Google also, for example, if you're using Google, there's data Google collects that identifies you, which in a matter of crime, they should be able to share that data with law enforcement if it's a criminal issue. Yes.
So,
and they use this
cyber,
yes.
You've gone to a cyber in Kaplong.
Yes.
And you opened a Gmail address.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's probably how they do it.
Yes.
You will still leave.
That laptop, that computer that you use at the cyber has an IP address. Right?
Yes.
That says, this is a computer, this is the computer type, this is where it is located. You get?
Yes.
It's in Kenya, in Kaplong.
That's fine.
That is fine. Okay.
There are no CCTVs in Kaplong.
It's fine. Yes. I can always map and say, this thing was set up on what date? Because it leaves the timestamp or the date stamp. How many people were in the radius, in the vicinity of this cyber? Because you carry your phone, right? Your phone connects to, it's connected to network, it's connected to Wi-Fi. So how many people were in this area during that time? This number of people. So it's a matter of just deduction. And our intelligence officers have devices that can actually be used to be able now to.
Wow.
Yes.
So why do we even have privacy in this statement, CG Data Privacy Act, when from just that brief description, I don't see privacy anywhere?
So it is there. Now, unfortunately, what we don't do, see, when you download an app, the first thing you do after you set it, like you put in your details, you get a notification that says, please accept our terms and conditions, please accept our privacy policy. Yes, and you don't read, and you're like, to learn more about our privacy policy, click here.
They don't give you an option?
They are supposed to.
They don't give you, like you either agree or you don't get in. Inakwanga, if you don't tick agree, there is no next.
Yeah, because you have to, because they are mandated to seek consent. That is not the right way of doing it. But again, you also have a choice to not share the information you want to share.
So you stay phoneless. Because trust me, you cannot.
No, but there's a way you can limit. You can limit. It doesn't address everything, but you can limit. You see, when you go to your apps you've downloaded and look at permission acts, like permission granted, it tells you what permission you've granted all the apps. So sometimes I ask, why does my, I'm trying to find a random app. Why does my game app need to know my location, for example? Why is it collecting my location data? Is there a relevance to my location data to what I'm doing with the app? Yes. So I would give location access to a taxi, like a taxi app.
Yes.
That makes sense because it needs to be able to recognize my location where I'm at.
Yes.
But why does like a gaming app need my location data? Why does it need access to my contacts? Why does it need access to my messages?
Okay.
Well, some need access to your messages so that if they're sending you notifications, but if you're not sending me notifications, then why do you need access to my messages? Why do you need access to my files? Why do you need access to my photos if you're not a social media tool that I'm going to use to upload photos or to share photos? And even with social media tools, you can limit. I want it to only access this folder of photos. That I'll be putting all the photos I want to be sharing on this folder. So you can limit, but we are the ones who give control. So the privacy is there so one of the principles of the Data Privacy regulations are the fact that consent must be informed consent. By the time you're saying yes to you being able to collect my data, and then what we're looking at is personally identifiable data. So let's say if I say Dr. Kengori, how many Dr. Kengoris are there? Does that identify you as you, or are there many Dr. Kengoris? If, for example, if I say Mary, how many Mary Gichukis are there in Kenya? Will it single me out? Maybe not. But if I put Mary Gichuki and date of birth, what are the likelihoods it will? They are very high, because might not be many Mary Gichukis who've been born in the same date.
Yes.
If I put in your identity, your ID numbers are unique to individuals. So it is, what is this data that I can use that I can actually be able to identify you? Location data can be used to identify you with other add-on information, such that if I say Dr. Kengori living in an XYZ area, it limits to the Dr. Kengoris in that area. So you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So some information is by themselves, it's not relevant or does not identify you. But when you add other aspects to it, I'm able to identify you. I'm able to say this is this person. So companies do need this data to be able to make better products, to be able to come up, to refine their product offerings for marketing purposes, to understand how their products are performing. However, they do not need personally identifiable data to be able to do all this. So that is where the Act comes in.
They do not need, but they want.
They want for a reason, because again, there's a term that is said, data is the new oil. It's something that has been going around for so long. Because with that information, let's give an example. I don't know if you did see the documentary called Cambridge Analytica, which is where all this data privacy conversation started, whereby
influencing politics.
Yes, being able to influence politics based on the data I have on you, not data I have on Kenyans, data I have on you as an individual. You get?
Yes.
And that is now where we're like, remove the personally identifiable data, because it means if it's for general good, there's some information you do not need. Yes. So they want it because it gives them a leverage or an up over their competitors. So the more data I have about my customers, the more I'm at a better advantage than my competitors. So if I have 40 million customers and my competitor has 10 million, when my competitor has 10 million customers, I have more data. I'm able to influence a bigger customer base.
So now, first of all, we established that this thing of people hiding on social media with pseudo accounts is like hiding by closing your eyes.
You really need to put a lot of measures for government not to be able to catch you. A lot of it.
Is that even possible?
It is.
VPN?
VPN, there's so many other.
But see, VPN, they will see who downloaded that VPN in the first place.
Not really. So that's
VPN can wipe out all the data.
No. It's just so VPN. How VPN works is it bounces your location to different other places. So it's never in Kenya. It's in Russia in 1 hour. It's in trouble, whatever Ukraine. Like it just bounces. So it creates virtual networks in different locations. Yes.
But it's the same government that licenses VPN networks to operate in Kenya, I believe.
Which VPN
for example,
network has been licensed in Kenya?
ukisema like an IMEI of any device is registered in Kenya. VPN is something you also download and access
an app.
from them.
So there's a difference between the device and the app.
I understand.
Yes.
So if VPN is an app and every app you leave 15 data points, see if you download it, they can trace who downloaded this.
First of all, government doesn't have like direct access. Let's start for like data that companies have. Government doesn't have direct access. Remember what I told you? For a legal matter, they have to request information from the company. and companies are obligated to share if there's an actual criminal offense. So that is why it is not me, Mary, going to tell, for example, your popular email company, give me Dr. Kengori's data. They can't give me. It's why people complain when you say, oh, I send money to the wrong number, give me the number of that person so that I'm able. They can't.
Okay.
You get, because again, the data privacy, the companies have a responsibility, or rather they're supposed to protect you as their customer. However, if government came and say, we have this matter, we need the data of this person, they are obligated to share.
Sawa. A guest on this show once said that he does business with data, that way he can never go wrong. In terms of, and I asked him whether that was legal. He sells houses, but then he can somehow talk to a bank or mwambie, like where people are playing at in terms of affordability and the kind of house he would need to build, okay? And probably the customer that would afford. It's a very interesting shortcut. So in real sense, so now this, what you're saying is the corporate version of that. You don't want to throw the nini in the wind. You don't want to shoot in the dark.
Yeah.
You're making targeted shots, and you know what you're going for.
Yes.
And this increases your conversion rate.
Yes.
So this technically means you can never go wrong with data.
You can't, because from data I can be able to know your behavior. It could be your spend behavior, could be your social behavior. Yeah. Okay. Just a very big example. Dr. Kengori orders out, an example, 10 times a month. Where does he order out? XYZ restaurant. What is the normal thing? What's the most common thing that he orders? This. Okay. Let's say I'm partnering with a restaurant that sells what you like, and it's coming up somewhere near and it's new. I've partnered with them. I'll be able to tell them, in the area you're setting up, you have 10,000 people who enjoy this particular meal. So
You have 10,000 customers.
So you have an opportunity, you have 10,000 opportunities for you to take advantage of. So these are potential customers that you can be able to advertise to. You can be able to sell this to.
And here we are.
So that is why you'll see it and you're like, I just, for example, searched best sports shoes. I just searched. I go back to my favorite social media site, and what do you see? All the shops that sell sports shoes.
Okay, there is two versions to this.
Yes.
I've seen someone say on Twitter, explain to me how I just talk about, let me give you an example of sports shoes, and when I log in to my YouTube page, it is sports shoes ads about shoes and stuff.
Have you activated your voice, your voice assistant?
Kwani how idle is the voice nini? It is that me correlated Evo directly.
Yeah, it's listening, because maybe that's why it's called a voice assistant. It's your assistant. So it's always ready to help you. So it's listening. For
Help
lack of a
or
better,
spying on me.
for lack of a, it's listening. But you've activated it. It's you who has activated it. You have a choice to deactivate it.
So it's only the voice assistant, not the government. The government, kwa hiyo, on top of sports shoes, when napiga story na watu, they're also listening. It's different.
No. That's very different. So not unless they've embedded something on your phone for them to listen directly, that's very different. So that's why you're able, so like we're talking sports shoes, and I go search, because I've activated voice assistant. So it picks that up, and again, most of the voice assistants and the search engines belong to the same organization. So
it's purely biased to spending. They don't tell you where, hey mazi, hey sina do, mazi nitatoa wapi. They don't give you, okay, this is where the money is.
Well, if they did, then that's wrong.
It's not an assistant. It's a lie. This story comes from like your involvement in like the Data Privacy Act process, you know? And then you hear someone who you least expect giving very strong points.
Yes.
Right? Do you remember what that was? Just so that I can put in context how aware people are out here.
That
like,
was a while back.
It's a while back, I understand.
I can't remember, but I know what we were discussing is at the time there were two different bills. So there was a Senate bill and there was a National Assembly bill.
Yes.
Both are the same thing. So one was a bit. It would have been hard for it to be implemented. Well, the other one was quite okay. It was in line with the General Data Protection Regulation, the GDPR, which is a EU regulation. So yeah, so that was a contention of, because now we were like, we need to we either harmonize or we either pick one. Yes. We can't have two of the same thing.
Yes.
And they differ in some aspects, in some things. So
understood.
Yeah, so that was the main, that stakeholder engagement session. Okay. That was what we were trying to push, and we're also giving feedback on both of the regulations. So in terms of, because you have to review and be able to give feedback and say how practical it is to be able to implement some of the proposals.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you say, when you use a statement like data is the new oil, now I believe you. I believe that. Now with the mtu akikusikiza, the knowledge that flows out of you, ukishajua hivyo, why are you opening another business? Why don't you just invest in just knowing? Because first, remember, we can all agree that as Kenyans, we are very careless about your awareness on data privacy.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I know people are making a killing with Kenyans' data, right? What stops you from, as in, it's open season?
Yeah. Me as Mary, or what stops anyone from
What stops anyone?
Okay, if I give you 10 kgs of, okay, if I give you 10 liters of water and you don't need water, have I helped you? Like, if I give you 10 liters of water and you don't know what to do with it, have I helped you? So you can have data, but what you're using it for is what matters. You get? So there are people who have data and they sell. They make a killing through that. But then for you to have this massive amount of data, you need to be able to have a way you're gaining that data, you're getting that data. So that's why most people develop solutions to be able to get data. Then from that data, they refine either their solution or come up with other products.
They find solutions on how, first of all, they get data and how they can monetize.
Yes.
Wow.
Because even if you have the data and you're not able to utilize it or use it for any gain, it's just data. It's just numbers or figures. That's just what it is. It's just names or numbers. That's what you just have. Yes. So without being able to, and then there's something called, even before companies, okay, they also just don't take the data and use it. They do put in some analysis into it and look at how many Kenyans are spending maybe 1,000 bob and above. What are they spending on? So then you see opportunities. Like, that's just like a general example. How many people are buying XYZ toothpaste? Where are they from? Like, what is their geographical location? What is their age? What is the, so that we go back as an industry and we're like, this is where we are selling at. This is where other companies are selling at. There's a gap here. No one is addressing. We have an opportunity.
Oh, that's how you identify opportunity.
Yes.
Oh,
hey. Oh, this is what people are complaining about.
Yes.
This is the opportunity for us. How can we address this? Yeah.
Ah.
Yes.
Wow.
But now what government is saying, or what governments are saying, you do not need to be able to identify a person for you to do this. So that is when now the data privacy comes into place. That's what we're saying. When you're giving your data, it needs to be informed. By informed, I mean when you're giving your data, you know, this is why you're giving that data. This is how it's going to be used. This is how it's going to be stored. And this is your right. Like, this is how it's going to be stored, and this is how it's going to be processed. By processed, it means this is what we are going to put it through for analytics, for marketing, for all that. So that's processing data.
And are we that predictable in reference to data? Okay, paka na sound umeshamba nikisema data. So are we that predictable if I order out a certain from a certain restaurant, you know that if you set up this, you've nailed me. Are we that predictable?
To some extent, yes. Because human beings are, again, creatures of habit. So I know, let's say my customer is ako hapa. Me, I want to open here.
Yes.
Is this this competitor has been serving this whole table. If I open here, I've split this table into to provide. And then now that's now the other things that come into place in terms of your service, the cleaning, like customer service, how you treat your customer. No, those are add-ons that you put in place, because then you've been able to analyze and assess and see, customers are complaining about this competitor of mine because they're not doing 1, 2, 3. So to compete, I'm going to offer what they're not.
You don't just open a business for the sake. You don't just open because you have some capital I see hapa kuna nini. There's now playing it at a different level.
Yes. And that's what sets apart most companies that are able to thrive or not. So I'll give a very good example of our first social media app. You've seen what they've been able to do over the years because because they have the first Meta now, because they had that opportunity and they were able to get a lot of data, learn a lot from people, and they were able to know, people are looking for this. So they came up with another solution. Yeah.
It is data driven.
Yes.
Sorry, data. It is data driven.
Yes.
Every single step.
Yes.
Wow. You've answered so many questions.
Yeah.
Our team, open-minded guys, najua wataona.
Yeah.
You mentioned businesses that thrive or don't thrive. One of our guests who is he's big in tech, he's big in the startup sector. He actually fundraises for startups and links startups to venture capital organizations. But he made some very bold statements. Ed Viongo, you can catch the episodes on the same platform, saying that 98% of startups in Kenya will fail, right? And you would be actually inclined to believe in that, because when you look at most of the startups that look like brilliant ideas, right? Downhill, right? But you still hear people being encouraged, ingia kwa startup, nini. What's going on there? Do you think there's any truth to that statement?
It's debatable depending on where you look at it. So it's the thing of, are you starting up? What problem are you trying to solve? I think that's from a startup perspective. What problem are you trying to solve? When you really identify on the problem you're trying to solve, and this needs to be customer centric. It cannot be driven by me as Mary. I come and I'm like, I want to solve this problem. No.
Yeah.
You need to be addressing a need that's in the community or in society.
Yes. So
most startups start very well, but then it's the sustainability aspect of it. It's also the aspect of, don't come into the startup world expecting to make profits in the first 5-10 years at most.
What do you mean? You don't come into the startup space hoping to make profit in the first 5 to 10 years. What does that even mean?
Let's give it 5 years, because it's the thing of people have first to, you need to grow affinity to your solution. So affinity means I am able to, like, I'm seeing the need for this solution, right? So a very good example of what we can call started as a startup but has grown is when Safaricom started M-Pesa, they were addressing an actual need, not a Safaricom need, an actual need in the community, in society. And their connecting factor, their appeal was sending money home. That was it. That was the first basic. All these others came later. So as a company, you need to first focus on what problem am I aiming to solve and how is it addressing customer needs, right? Then now that one solution, let it grow before wanting to grow, or you want to expand, you want to become big. First grow it.
Okay.
Get before you are able now to grow and develop into other spaces. That is one. A lot of also the startup design issue of which is being discussed in the space is the fact that people are not, they're not there, they're not able to manage, because a lot of the startups are funded. So it's the thing of we have funding instead of focusing on what our core problem was or why we were looking for funding. It becomes a thing of I want a fancy office, I want to hire I don't know how many people. Again, you need to be able to grow lean before now you can expand to that point of I want this fancy office, I want to hire 10,000 people. What is the actual need that you're addressing? Have you even been able to just deliver that one? See that one solution, deliver it and deliver it perfectly. Then from there, go to the other thing. So it's, for most of it, it's we say startups in Africa, okay, in Kenya, our startups they do not work from a sustainable aspect of it. Also, they're over-reliant on funding sometimes can give you that's like you live in a bubble whereby money will always be there. But remember, you're being given funding to support you so that you grow, so that the money you're getting can be able to sustain you as a business.
So it would be accurate to say that most startups are funding oriented, not problem oriented, in the sense that once you get the funding, you already have what you want.
They start as problem oriented, but eventually they lose focus on sight of it. So I'll give an example, like the startup that felt that people thought it was addressing, and sustainability looks at it from a very different point. You remember Kune, the one that used to sell food to offices? They used to deliver food to offices.
Yes.
So they lost the sustainability aspect of it in terms of you have a market entry price point. You cannot grow with that market entry price point.
You cannot grow with that market entry price point.
Yes. So they were selling food, I think it was at 200 again.
Yes.
I need to, not 100% sure.
Yes.
They were selling food at 200%. Again,
200 shillings.
200 shillings, sorry, yes. 200 shillings. They were selling at 200 shillings. This, again, produce increased prices over the years. Fuel has gone up, that's logistic. You cannot continue selling at 200.
And if you increase the price?
Again, that's why you say grow affinity in terms of why am I buying at Kune? Is it a price conversation? Is it quality of what I'm receiving? So now you need to be able to differentiate yourself. If you're coming into the market to address a price factor, then you need to be able to also address all your operational costs.
Oh, yes. You must be aware of the changing factors over time.
And be sure that the price I have set when getting into the market, despite the change in the economic setting or economic situation or in operational situations, these spreads can still be able to help me sustain. And that's why you have to look at the numbers and say, I have, and then also grow your customer base. That's also another thing. Have you grown your customer base within the last 1 year? So how are you assessing that? I started with 5, now I am at 10. And are they 10 value customer, or are they 5 constant customers? And then I have other 5 that just fluctuate, they're one-off. So when you're able to assess that, you're also able to adjust accordingly.
Okay.
But remember, when you're being funded, you're not seeing this problem as, like, you're not looking at it from that perspective, because you're like, I'm getting money to be able to support the gaps.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's the aspect of how are you growing your startup to become sustainable and be able to run on itself without funding. Because you can't be a startup forever. You need to have the how are you going to change or to transform into out of the funding cycle.
So the grace period of a startup, when you say you can't be a startup forever, I'm assuming the grace period is the 5 to 7 years that you need to make a profit.
You need to be able to have started being able to make money that can actually help you run some of your operational costs.
So for funding, this means 5 to 7 years. And I think now I understand the concept of patient capital.
Yes.
Someone's given you money to just have fun in this context for 5 to 7 years. They're still not expecting a return.
Most funding, depend on the kind of funding. There are some that they're expecting a return. But remember, they're not expecting return. Like, I give you money today, I'm expecting returns tomorrow. No. So you're given a period to be able to pay out. And when you're applying for funding, you're able to say, we will be able to reach X number by this period of time based on the numbers we've seen. Markets change. There's a lot of market dynamics that inform. I was expecting 100. By the end of the year, I've gotten 80. Or I've gotten 50. So you're able to sit and analyze, why did we get 50, right? Have you also assessed what are my competitors doing? Like, there's a lot of things you need to assess as from a startup's perspective. So,
and why are we talking 5 to 7 years in an economy that I've had some sources placed? In fact, this was said by Purity Kimodo Wakahi on the show, that we have an economy that 98% of businesses die in 3 years.
Because those are the first years of any business, they're very capital intensive. And that's why startups are funded, so that you remove the stress of getting the capital, you focus on delivering the solution. And optimizing it, and again. Which
brings another question. I'll quote very many people because tumekuwa tukiongea story ndo for over the past 1 year. Our guest and a friend of the show, he owns Business Kenya. He's big on SMEs. Anaitwa Tony Melo. He said on the show that he would never start a business for someone because this person will not understand the value of the capital that you've been given. He would rather boost someone's business. You umefika hapa, you're struggling. If ukiboost you heavy, you would get to this point.
Yes.
I know personally from experience, I've tried it and I agree with this point. Okay? So is this to say that we could also argue that startups are set up for failure for overcapitalization? In this sense, if the grace period is 5 to 7 years, you may be bound to get comfortable. Yeah, by the way.
Yes.
The salaries are there 5 to 7 years. Most people would be in an office for 1 to 4 years, right? Is that accurate? That's probably why they are set up for failure.
Yeah. Because remember, at the end of the day, the founder, I can't remember their name. They were saying they will never seek for funding to be able to run their solution or their business. And this is what they explained or saying in terms of, you do not appreciate the value of the dollar. Let me just use the dollar, of the dollar you get. Because if you work without a funding, every dollar you get, you appreciate it and you use it effectively and wisely. However, you have money that you've not worked for. You have worked for it because you have pitched, but this is not money that has come out from, I have sold this glass and gotten my profit, or I've gotten XYZ out of it. You've been given money too. And that's what he's saying. He will never, because they do not appreciate the value of the capital.
Dollar that you've been given.
Yes. No, what your guest said, they would never start a business for someone because they do not
appreciate the value of the
capital. Thank you. Because you're not, you see, you're not the one putting in the work. You're not like, if I get into a process where I make this glass from scratch, I know what it took me to make this glass. So I know the blood, sweat, tears that I've put into getting this glass, right? I've gone and sold, right? That glass. I have earned my 100 shillings. I appreciate that 100 more, right? Because I know what it has taken me to get here. Compared to, I can't give you everything that you need until you make a glass.
Wouldn't that now get us in the territory of glorifying suffering?
It's not, you're not glorifying suffering, but it's more of appreciating the process. Because if I come and tell you everything here, you're not, it's good to boast, right? However, if you do not have a plan of, I have these resources, how do I make this glass, and how do I use the money that I'm going to get from this glass to be able to make the second glass? So I've given you resources for one glass, right?
Yes.
So you need to figure out the resources for making the second glass.
Yes.
However, this is how the startup culture works. You've made one glass. You've gone and sold. You do not have enough resources to make a second glass. So you come to me and tell me, I need X. I give you X. You've told me I'll be able to pay you, or this is depending on the type of funding. So some are not, you don't pay, you're given, which are called grants, and some you either pay me by I have shares into your company, which is called equity. So I have equity into your company, which I can take out at a certain period of time, or they're the ones that it's like a loan, you have to pay it after a certain period of time, for example.
Yes.
Right? So let me say I've given you in exchange of equity. Even if I've given you in exchange of equity, equity of zero is? The equity of zero is
zero.
Exactly. So there's nothing you can take out at the end of if we don't succeed. So this equity is only dependent on if we actually succeed. And if our equity actually ends up being worth something, right? Yes. So I've added you, right? You've made the second glass, but have you really, compared to this person who's gone, they made the 100, they know this 100 will be able to give me risk. Can you see the two different?
Understood.
Yes.
Understood.
So it's the point of, it's not a bad thing. Funding is not a problem. It's how the sustainability of startups that is the problem.
Okay.
How is the sustainability being mapped out or being planned out?
Okay.
Yes. So you've addressed a problem for this demographic. What is your growth plan?
Okay.
How do you want to grow beyond this fast that you've identified? What is the growth opportunity? Yes. Okay. What is the money? Where are we getting the money from? Like, what is the opportunity to actually sell? Because again, you can have a customer base, but they're not going to be able to give you enough to sustain the business.
Wow. Yani, tukianza na political science, we ni star. Tukikuja kuingia kwa data, we ni steamer. Tukikuja kwa tech space, yani, I know someone watching and uza, wewe. Kwani, as in, you're not guessing kwa hizi fields zote. And I know mtu anajiuliza, what does Mary do? What does Mary do? Policy consultant. We'll talk about your company in a bit.
Yeah.
But you've thrown me kwa deep end. So basi, before we get to what you do, then basi what is business?
What do you mean, what is business?
Unajua, everyone anaimba self-employed. Like, and I'll get self-employed. Ukiangalia in the space where people would like to get to or have your own startup and nini. In fact, kuna kitu nilisikia, and I think it's Ed who said it on the show, overcapitalization. I think you've explained it partly kwa hiyo ingine. So the problem is not really money. When you go back to our conversations with Jimmy Wanjigi, he says ideas beat everything.
Yes.
In fact, ideas beat money any day. And I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
And he introduces another concept for us on the conversation that blew my mind. He said business is in people's needs, wants, and dreams.
Yes.
So you choose an area, go with that. That's where the money is.
Yes.
For you. Kwa ukienda Kibera, you cheza in the business of needs. What do these people want?
Yes.
Ukiingia Kilimani, what do people want?
Yes.
Right? Ukiingia Runda, what are people's dreams? It was a brilliant concept.
Yeah.
And then again, he looks, there's a conversation tulikuwa nao pending where you should hear him, like sasa akiangalia the Kenyan population na classification, alafu anakuambia in 2002, like hapa ndio tunacheza, in 2006, 2007, 2010, Kenyatta's, Uhuru Kenyatta's time, hivyo. That's an interesting way. But then sasa tunaangalia kwa the example I'm just saying, self-employed. Do we self-employ for survival or for wealth creation? What is the true meaning of business? Kama these brilliant ideas tunasikia, they don't even turn profitable in the end, for reasons explained.
Yeah.
Then, basi, the whole concept of business, to the biggest extent, is a lie.
Yeah. So there's a concept I've had that said, are you coming up with a business to become self-employed? There's a difference between a self-employed person and an entrepreneur.
Yes,
or
yes,
even
yes,
a
yes.
business owner, because these are two different people. So again, I had this somewhere where they're saying, so when you say you're self-employed, you've only come from being employed by someone to employing yourself. So the business starts and ends with you. There's no systems in place. There's no structures in place in terms of, if I die today, it continues. Yes. If you're not there today, the business is there. So how do you separate your business from yourself, from the self?
Yes.
If the day you're sick and you will not, and your business cannot function, then you're self-employed. If the day you become sick and your business can function, then you're a business owner or you're an entrepreneur.
That's the difference.
Yes. So again, being self-employed is just, you've left employment, someone paying you, you're paying yourself. So what is the boss. Yes, being your own boss. Yeah. So what is the end game when you're starting a business? What are you doing it for? Self, in terms of just being able to self-sustain yourself, or are you building it to be able to grow it into something that can actually work outside of you?
I don't see any difference
with
in terms of business and betting in the real sense now. Because if we say 98% of new businesses, it's gambling. 98% of new business fail in 3 years. So only 2%. To discuss as a statistics, what it takes to be in the 2%, it's gambling.
I don't think it's. I think for business, you're taking what is it called? You're taking a risk. You're taking a calculated risk. It's not 100%. It's a calculated risk in terms of You're calculating the optics of what is currently there. Because you also remember, business just don't fail because of one single thing. There's so many other factors that can happen. Because if, for example, the businesses that failed in COVID, you cannot purely say it was because of the factors that we're talking about here, of overcapitalization, of lack of having a sustainability aspect. A lot happened that was a shock factor. And unfortunately, that also happens when it comes to businesses, if you have not prepared yourself for certain shock factors. COVID was one of the reality checkers that showed a lot of businesses, even big corporates, we do not have proper shocks in place to be able to handle certain certain aspect or certain changes in the market. So businesses failed because of so many things. But now again, when you come to, is it a gambling? You're taking a risk, a calculated risk, whereby you've sat and said, I see an opportunity here, right?
Yes.
This is how I can monetize this opportunity. So it's a calculated risk. Will it work? Might. Will it not? Might not. It can actually work and it can actually fail. So it's a calculated risk. I don't think anyone sets up to start a business to fail. It's just that, again, the circumstances, there's lack of planning, there's lack of foresight.
Okay.
All of those things.
So
sometimes.
Very well
sometimes
explained.
It's very situational. So, so there was a question to that.
By the powers actually vested in me by our audience, I believe they all agree with me that this is a first of many conversations. And I believe I can authoritatively say, because this conversation was supposed to be purely on policy, and I believe you're a policy expert, all right? And Nilikwambia, Milka from our team and I were discussing the idea of what policy is. I don't know kama we were misled, because we were just two kienyeji people going around what we think policy is.
Okay.
And an example comes, we have a company like EPZ that we say we promote manufacturing, we put policies in place to promote like buy Kenya, build Kenya. But then again, on this other side, we have Mitumba, all right? Mitumba business. So Mitumba business thrives. It's already an economy by itself. So if you promote EPZ and create policies that will promote EPZ, you are killing an already existing economy. The same thing happens in the transport sector. There is a time the government is in charge of the transport system, wakati ya Stagecoach KBS, right? It's almost like government vibes. Ati madere ni civil servants, makanga ni civil servants, yes, conductors. And then an opportunity tokeas in place, matatu comes in between. It's now an industry that ukisema ati you want to boost public transport, like from government side, you're killing an industry. Right?
Yes.
Is this opportunity, is this policies killing themselves through opportunity? Is this what benefits the many? Like in the example of EPZ, what do you think benefits the country? Boosting manufacturing, textile industry, akina EPZ, or leaving Mitumba as is? Is that policy even?
It is, because again, so what would inform the thriving of EPZ from a when you're developing policy, it's not just a document that say, it also looks at relevance, efficiency, cost, benefits. Those are some of the things that need to be looked at. And over the years, you actually review and look at, is it addressing the goals? We had the predefined goals or objectives we had set it out to do. So like what you're saying, EPZ is there, but it's a very capital intensive industry. So money needs to be put in. So either investors come in or government puts it in place. While you look at Mitumba, why is Mitumba thriving? Because again, the clothes,
low barrier of entry.
Yes. While they might cost quite a few dollars in terms of bringing in the clothes, you have ready customer because people can afford Mitumba. When you manufacture from scratch, these clothes are not sold at the same price as the Mitumba. So also look at the economic situation of the people at that time, right? So if, say for example, today we scrap out Mitumba, how many people will be affected?
Very many, millions actually.
Exactly. So you also need to look at the impact of the people, the impact of being, when you're bringing up a policy, you need to look at the impact it's going to have on the people and the situation, again, as I'm telling you, the situation on the ground. So it's not purely it in itself. It's called, every time you have a policy, it has to be reviewed. This is done yearly. There's usually different plans, which is part of the implementation plan, where you put an implementation plan. This is what we're going to do, because a policy document even has an implementation metrics that says we're going to implement this at year 1, at year 2, at year 3, at year 4, because you can't implement everything at the same time. Because you also need to look at what is the available resources in terms of, do we need to set up an office? Do we even have the infrastructure to be able to deliver this? Do we need to develop a legislative tool to support this? So those are some of the things. So there's that matrix. But then after every year, there's a review process where you monitor, you're able to evaluate, and you're also able to do impact assessment and see, is it addressing the impact? Are we achieving what we had set out to do?
Okay.
Yeah. So if it's not, then there's an opportunity to review it. There's even an opportunity to suspend it and come up with another policy, because also there's relevance. Issues evolve and they become something else. So we started with people are dying of hunger, for example. 2, people have been able to find a workaround on the hunger issue, and it's no longer an issue. Issue is we need to be able to start exporting our own produce.
Yes.
You get.
Understood.
So it's also the thing of, once they evolve, is this policy relevant anymore? No, it's not.
Policies also have an expiry date.
Yes, because it's also in terms of, you can't just have a policy for the sake of having a policy, just to be able to say we have this policy. So that's why, like for example, the free primary education policy, it's no longer being implemented because it had a lot of challenges and government was not able to support it. Maybe a future government may be able to, or maybe may review it and amend it to fit the context of the country where it is. So those are the things that happen. So it's what you're saying, like in the transport sector, government was not able to sustain the transport sector because the needs were many and they did not have enough resources to put in money to be able to support that industry. So this is an opportunity for them to be, what is our goal? To have a thriving public transport sector. We have private investors who can come in and put in money, so that we are also not, government is not stretching its resources thin. Yes, to sustain an industry.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood kabisa. So now, najua watu wetu wanajua, you can thrive in political science, you can thrive in data, you can thrive in policy. What have you settled on? What does Mary do now?
Yeah, so political science is just my opening. No, it was my opening into policy. So it actually helps you know how to participate in this policy process, to be honest.
Yes.
But currently I decided to focus on informing tech policy, technology policy. These are all the regulations that come into place to inform all this all these solutions that are coming up, be it AI, be it data protection, be it digital financial services, fintech, crypto, all these technological solutions that are coming in place. They do not operate in a vacuum. They operate in a community. They operate in a place whereby there's systems in place that need to be able to be adhered to. Sometimes new systems or guidelines or rules have to be developed so that people are either protected and also to allow these technological companies to thrive. So I sit in the middle of So tech and the policy and regulation, but I also sit in between companies and government. So in terms of, I advise, I work with governments when the opportunity presents itself to be able to advise them on some of the trends or some of the issues that a policy or regulation might hinder innovation to grow. Because government works to protect its people most of the time. That is the purpose. It may not happen every time, but most of the time that is the intent that government comes into place. But sometimes government can act too quick that you kill an opportunity. So you may regulate an industry before it's even gotten to even scratched 10% of what it's supposed to do. So you regulate and you kill opportunity in terms of investors don't want to get into that space anymore. They're not, no one is looking to start doing anything in that space because there's a lot of government oversight, which is not bad, but sometimes it can be too cumbersome in terms of there's a lot of compliance requirement. Like there's a lot of things you have to meet to be able to operate or play in that space. So investors like, especially again, going back to what we were saying, in terms of startups and businesses, you want a conducive, fast few years because you're trying to reduce your operational costs, right? Part of compliance is a cost in itself. Like I need to calculate my cost of being able to adhere to these requirements, this legal and regulatory and requirements. Yes. So again, how does government support so that startups and companies are able to thrive and give solutions that help consumers? And then government comes into place to put in the checks of, now you're surpassing your solution is not helping the intended person, now it's causing more harm. So how do we curtail you, or what can not curtail you? What can we do to ensure that you're playing within an ecosystem that allows everyone to thrive? Because the regulations also come to also be able to protect other businesses that want to come into the ecosystem.
Just to give an example, this is why M-Pesa, Safaricom was a company that was started. It was a branch of Telcom, but then again, M-Pesa is their product. And I think there was, not kitambo, M-Pesa ilienda, there was a problem with M-Pesa, and MPs were mad. They wanted that Safaricom to give an explanation why M-Pesa, it is our company, why M-Pesa is not working at the threat of economic shutdown. So sometimes you may grow so big that a threat of your dysfunction is a threat to the country. That's where you mean by you can grow, but then sasa, okay, how do we manage your growth?
How do we, because you can become too big that you're stepping on you're trampling over everyone else, your customers, your competitors. Again.
And that's why I asked, like, they would never have allowed Safaricom to be someone's private company. It is mine.
But there's also regulation that states if you get to a certain So first of all, for it to become first of all, as a company, you cannot be one person. You can, like Elon owns.
See, mine. That would be fun. Imagine Safaricom is yours. Someone anaongea vibaya Twitter, unaizima kwa nyumba.
Elon owns
Sema the whole country is not talking.
But Elon owns the majority of his company.
Safaricom. Sasa ongeeni vile mlikuwa mnaongea. You have switched off Safaricom, you come no, hey, tufungulie kidogo.
So there's also that thing where when you're looking at policies and looking at regulations and how you formulate them, there's something called public interest, and also there's things that we look at public good. Is this is this for public good? And if it is, then yes, we're going to allow it, and that's why like M-Pesa was allowed without even existing a regulation at the time, as a test, like try it out because it was for public good. But then there's now what you're saying with the MPs, now there's public interest, whereby you realize when this thing is not functioning, again, it's affecting our economy cause people are reliant on this solution.
Yet in 2002, we did not care.
Yes, but how many, did you know how many people did not have access to formal banking, to formal financial services?
Oh, so now that tumezoea the service, we are entitled.
You're not entitled. Okay, so unfortunately, access to financial services is a public good. This is why. So if you have access to financial services, you are able to save. You're able to plan your money well. You're able to get access into business opportunities that you did not have.
That is top shelf buyers.
Is that top?
You are guaranteed access to financial services. Access to the finances is where they draw the line.
Access to finances is you to give them access.
It is not your right.
What do you mean? But no one can give you money for free.
But there's a financial services we can give you for free.
Yeah, we can give you the service for you to be able to manage the money you have. Yeah, where you get the money now, that's all on you.
Okay. Without sounding too corporate,
yes.
So now I propose a second conversation, if your schedule allows. Kwa sababu umesema, I would love for you to talk about your company kidogo. Kwa sababu when you talked about consulting on policy level, you mentioned AI, you mentioned crypto. Those are high interest topics on our platform.
Yes.
And hapo ndio nimesema corporate, the production company that is responsible for the podcast yenye tuko nayo inaitwa Green Media. And they have a Gen Z version, wako na podcast inaitwa Institute of Character Development, where this week I got to learn that some of them are actually dating AI. They need to be regulated, sindio?
How old are they, first of all? But what is
they were not there in 2002. That's the funny thing. It's
but
funny.
They find dating AI like it's
mtu ako na boyfriend AI. You tell it your problems, and I feel out of place because I can't tell them 2002 stories. They were not there. None of them. That's how many. So they even have AI therapists. You understand? They have a podcast on this actually. They have AI therapists that it even knows your problems.
Yeah.
So that's where you come in. But hapa muenda sana.
You can't regulate that. That is you deciding what you want to use a solution for.
How do you know you're not chatting with someone in hell? Unajua, you cannot. They need to be protected from themselves. My thinking. I'm overthinking. I'm a dangerous policy expert.
No. As in, no. It's you're looking at a problem that's not a problem, for lack of a better word. Well, the problem you're supposed to be looking at is overdependence on technology, which already exists. Sit at the dinner table. How many polos? People have been. So how do we, especially for the younger generation who lack the control, the self-control to be able to tell themselves, to be able to govern themselves and tell them, you know what, I need 5 minutes. You tell yourself, by the way, I've scrolled so much. You put your phone and you leave it and you take a walk, right? But then there's a generation that, or rather there's an age group that's not able to do that, to be able to regulate themselves. And that's why there's a thing whereby as guardians or parents, you're told you need to be able to put screen times, be able to have a timer that says that this child will be able to access the phone up to, or this youth or this teenager will be able to access the phone for 4 hours in a day. Then they take a break for 5 hours.
Yes.
Let them keep themselves busy. But again, now those are some of the things that you're able to, those safeguards are the ones that you're going to be there. We need to be able to develop AI that's able to, you see, when as you're saying they're dating AI, that will not result into them getting into a harmful situation such that, yeah, I'm like pushing it into self-harm kind of situation, putting you into situation where it's encouraging you to go harm others. Now, those are some of the things. It doesn't have the biases that most AI have. So now how are you able to bring out an AI that is ethically sound, that can actually be able to guide the whole of society, but particularly this younger generation, because again, they do not have the self-control. So Now that is what you can regulate, but I cannot regulate how you use a tool.
Okay.
Yes, that will be me coming into so much of your space okay. and telling you I'm trying to control what you do, which okay. is not what we want. We do not live in that kind of a country. I know China does a lot of controlling what people do and how they access things. That's a very different kind of environment. We live in a country where we allow people to be able to have their freedoms, because that's a right enshrined.
Okay. So now I propose, if your schedule allows, we go deep into AI and crypto from a policy expert perspective and bring all your AI and crypto questions. I believe you've listened to Mary's vibe na mnajua mahali anachezea. This is a conversation I'm looking forward to. And for the sake of good vibes, please tell us about your company as we close.
So my company is called Nexus Tech Policy Advisors.
Yes.
We work with startups, the ones we're talking about. So we want to move that 98, especially from a compliance perspective,
yes. to
maybe 97, 95%, at least, to help them be able to navigate some of those compliance aspects.
Yes.
We don't operate only in Kenya. We support any tech or tech company or any startups in Sub Saharan Africa. So we have a group of partners, or I've worked with a few people who have partnered with me, and they bring in different expertise from policy advocacy, data privacy. So I have a partner who's more versed in this data privacy conversation than I am, but I've been in this tech policy space for the last 10 years. So we're able to bring in our different knowledge. We have someone in tech and cybersecurity who also works with us. So we are able to give you a 360 service, but it's more on how can you ensure your business is compliant. We're able to do a regulatory impact assessment. We're able to do a compliance assessment. We look at what you have in place and what are the gaps from a compliance perspective. We also are able to give you a regulatory impact assessment. So we're able to look at what regulations are coming into place and how will it impact your business and what you need to do to be able to be ready for this regulation coming into place. We are located, our HQ is here, but we're available for meetings. We have a website, so you can find us on the www.nexustechpolicyadvisors.com. We also have a page on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me as well, and we'll be more than happy to take the conversation.
Okay.
We also do support companies contribute to this public policy conversation by doing submissions on their behalf or taking in their input. We submit it as Nexus Tech, but it's being able to give their position on these key matters, because we understand as a founder, as a business, you're focusing on making the money.
Wow.
So you need a partner who's able to help you ensure that when regulations are coming into place, you're ready and they also don't impact you as much. Yeah.
Okay. Understood. If our audience has enjoyed this conversation as much as I have, I believe they would want to know how they can also get to you directly. Do you have a phone number that can be shared publicly?
Yes.
So we can make sure iko hapa on the screen. I have to say this to you, from me to you, having been on this table having conversations personally, this is selfish, and I believe a majority of our audience would agree that you are one of the most diversely informed guests to mekuwa now on the platform. Thank you for making time for us.
Thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to more conversations.
Me too. Kwanza tumeongeza data privacy kwa hiyo crypto na AI.
Yeah, because we need to go into the other principles or pillars of data privacy, because we only spoke of one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Asante.
Okay.